dolphins jumping through flaming hoops, or polar bears doing math, or I don't know, whatever they train animals in zoos to do.
Videotape your face or everything else?
Everything.
Top-rated otter breeding program in the nation, which is cool.
What
we get more otters. Otters like to breed stuff for everybody. It's just a cool place to go see. Actually, they have like the inverted fish tank in there as well, where you can kind of walk in and all the fish are swimming around you. It's pretty interesting. And coming up just after the Seattle Aquarium is this long kind of beige building up just above that elevated freeway. This is the Pike Place Market. Some of you guys might have seen it already, but it looks a little different from this angle here. That's the Pike Place Market. That started in 1907. And the reason the Pike Place Market started was due to the outcry over the price of onions and produce. Basically what was going on at the time was all these middlemen were buying produce directly from farmers, and they were just raising the prices exorbitantly. So the price of onions had increased 10 times in 1 year. So it was 10 times what it originally was, which is pretty excessive. It's like the equivalent of paying like $4 for an onion today. People just couldn't afford it at the time. So their whole goal there was that they were going to build an outdoor market where you can actually meet your producer face to face. To this day, it's the longest running privately run market. So that's pretty cool. That's the whole reason it was there, and that's kind of the philosophy that continues. That
Go through all the sites so you can see the thing.
Meet the people that are making your
Wait till we pass the Space Needle.
growing your produce, or catching your
Let's do it before we pass the Space Needle.
And it's also constantly changing, so you can go see it, once every day out of the week, and there's going to be new vendors there every single time, so it's pretty cool. The next area that we're coming up on over here is Pier 66. This is home to the Bell Harbor Marina, which you can see right over there. This is a short stay marina, so they have slips set aside for less than 48 hours for people just coming in for the day. Ironically enough, it's actually cheaper for you to dock your boat than it would be to drive your car downtown. So
Damn it.
It's a good place to go. And it's also just attached to that. There's some restaurants there. You can see Anthony's over there. And it's also home to Seattle's first cruise ship terminal. This cruise ship terminal started in 1996. And when it was built, Seattle didn't actually have a lot of foresight in the planning of it. So basically, normally when you would put a cruise ship dock in, you'd think that you would talk to cruise ship companies and actually make sure that they were going to show up. The city of Seattle didn't do that. They just sort of put it in and figured they would show up, because why wouldn't they? And it took
Hey, you're gonna fall.
This dock completed, ready to go in 1996. We didn't see a cruise ship until the year 2000.
Do you smell fish?
Norwegian Summer Park. It's kind of picked up. It's kind of been successful.
Are you hungry?
In spite of their poor planning, and now we have about 800,000 cruise ship passengers that go through here. Most of them are going up to Alaska for 7 or 14-day cruises. The next pier that we're going to be coming up on over here is just after these kind of greenish buildings right here, still part of Pier 66. But just after that, we have kind of a beige, bluish building. This is the Edgewater Hotel. The Edgewater Hotel was started in 1962. And what was going on in Seattle at the time was there was a World's Fair. It was like one of the largest World's Fairs at the time. There was going to be a ton of tourism in here, and they wanted to give these tourists a place to stay. And so they built this hotel on the waterfront. It's the only hotel located on the waterfront. They figured they'd make a bunch of money because they'd have all these tourists in here, and everything would be great. Unfortunately, due to construction delays, it wasn't actually open until after the World's Fair had concluded. And so they needed a new way to get people to come in there and stay there and to spend their money there. So what they did is they advertised in hunting and fishing magazines that you could fish out of your bedroom window. It sounds like a good idea. The only problem was that people started fishing out of their bedroom windows.
Start dancing.
You're in sound.
Start dancing and take off your clothes.
You're not catching trout. You're catching like salmon, halibut, really large, angry fish that aren't really.
Start dancing and take off your clothes.
Reeled up 4 floors.
Real, it's a
and
pool.
Also, you notice all the windows are kind of in a straight line there. So if you're reeling it up, it's just going to smack into every window on the way up and break the windows. And then they come into the problem.
A little bit.
Once it's actually in your hotel room. So a lot of people were like knocking holes in the walls and stuffing the fish in the holes and putting like paintings over them, or putting them in the box springs of the mattresses. Doing inappropriate things with those fish. Luckily, by the time the 1980s rolled around, they had enough notoriety where they actually had people staying there and they didn't need to continue this practice, and so they banned it. The Beatles have a famous photograph of themselves in 1967 fishing out of that window. A lot of other rock bands have stayed there as well. Just after that, we're coming up on the Port of Seattle. Port of Seattle oversees all of Seattle's seaport activities, as well as Boeing International Airport. Also, we have the Victoria Cooper catamaran ferries located out of there. These boats are pretty cool. They're a really good way to actually get up to Victoria if that's what you're trying to do. They're really quick. They get up there in about 2.5 hours, 2 hours-ish. To give you some perspective, if we were on the Spirit of Seattle here and we decided that we wanted to go to Victoria, Canada, we'd get there in about 12 or 13 hours. So yeah, so they're a little bit faster than we are. You can also tell that this is one of the newer piers. You can see the pylons there. They're holding up out of the water.
Oh wow, now we're going fast.
They're nice. They look really sturdy. By contrast, you can kind of look at
There's
Pier 70, which is the next pier down the way, and it's old wood, just old growth cedar that's holding it up. Maybe they replace it as time goes on. However, we're just rotting and have non-existent underneath there now. Pier 70 is one of the oldest piers on the waterfront. It was started in 1901, and over its long lifetime, it's been home to many things, including it was a warehouse for the State Liquor Control Board for a while. It was a disco in the 70s. And more recently, it was home to the Real World, season 7 of the Real World. So it was 1996.
Maybe videotape
I don't know if that show's still on. Maybe
What are we in?
Jersey Shore.
What are we in?
Just after that, you can see a big grassy green hill there with an orange sculpture on top of it.
Look at the
An
Wawa.
extension of the Seattle Art Museum is the Olympic Sculpture Park. The orange sculpture there is called Eagle. It was built by Alexander Calder in 1971.
This is a
There's a
Wawa.
lot of other art pieces there. It's a pretty cool way to kind of include your at the waterfront. It's free art, which is nice. So you can't complain about that. It's open 30 minutes before sunset, closes 30 minutes
walk away
after,
from
or 30 minutes before sunrise, and then closes 30 minutes after sunset. And if you were to continue walking down, you get through the Olympic Sculpture Park, continue along the waterfront there, you'd be coming into Myrtle Edwards Park. Myrtle Edwards Park was named after a Seattle City Councilwoman in the 1960s. His name was Myrtle Edwards. She was known for her civic activity. She had this philosophy where if there was
Maybe are you getting that?
Maybe.
It's alright, you didn't miss anything important. I was just talking about parks. So we're passing a large globe on top of the building right now. That's the PI building. You're reading the letters that kind of spin around. It says it's in the PI. It's Washington State's oldest newspaper. It was actually formed as a newspaper before Washington was even considered a state. That globe on top of it weighs 18.5 tons, and they actually moved that building in the 80s, and they relocated that globe to the new location here. They're currently not actually printing newspapers, they just work strictly online. They're one of the first newspapers to actually start doing the strictly online format. There's also off to the right, you can see these 3 large rocks that are kind of like leaned up against each other. Kind of looks like they just were dropped there. They were not dropped there. That is what we in Seattle refer to as art. This piece is called Stones Adjacent in a Pond, and it's intended to reflect man's rise to consciousness in the universe. Yeah, I don't know, I don't get it either. It's kind of pretentious, but it's alright. It's art. The area in the background up there, if you see these 3 large television towers, this is Queen Anne. This whole area was Seattle's first neighborhood. The reason this neighborhood originally came about was because at the time Seattle had burned to the ground. Pretty much all of downtown was caught up in a huge fire. They originally built everything out of wood, and all of downtown just basically burned straight to the ground. And so this actually ended up being good for the city in the sense that it rebuilt it with a more metropolitan theme. Originally it was kind of a logging town, but it brought in a lot of people with it that were doing this rebuilding process. A lot of construction workers and loggers and sailors and stuff like that. A lot of, sort of unwholesomeness that goes along with that. So these basically rich people that had started settling here had families, and they wanted to get their families out of this environment. And so they moved up to this area, and they built these large Queen Anne Victorian-style mansions up there, and that's where the neighborhood got its name. Originally, they had to regrade the hill. The hill was too steep to get up and down really easily, and so what they did is they sluiced a bunch of water down the hillside, almost eroded the hillside. And while they were doing this, they uncovered a graveyard. And so they, obviously bodies in the streets is bad for PR, you don't want to have that. And so they had people go out there and move these bodies under the cover of night, and they coined these people as working the graveyard shift, because that's what they were doing. So that's kind of a cool story. And we're coming up on our grain ship terminal right now. There's actually not a ship in the grain terminal, but you can see all the silos in the background there. Basically, all those big cement, those white big cement things store all the grain. Those are the silos. From there, they have a big conveyor belt, so all the grain will fall down. It goes up the conveyor belt, comes over. From there, they kind of run another conveyor belt over to where it's going, which hold it's going to on the grain ship, and then kind of drop it straight down into there.